Alright, well, recently I shot my first kind of documentary, and I just kind of want to go over my documentary camera rig, so I'll show you around. At the base of everything, of course, is the Fuji XT-4. I do love the image that comes out of this camera. I only shot the long op in 4K for the interviews, and just 1080p for everything else, except for some of the performances. I shot 4K 60, so I could crop in and get even tighter. Honestly, the image that came out of this camera I'm pretty happy with, even in the long op and the 1080. And I just have the basic small rig cage around this. I didn't put much thought into which cage I was gonna get. I just got the small rig one and works great. Next thing I have is this small rig top handle. I like this one because you can kind of adjust it back and forth, and it has the locating pins at the front for monitor mounts, which I'm not doing this time. What I am doing is using another small rig arm. This one's pretty beefy. It's the 12-inch one, and it has like this ratcheting, like locking system, so it's very sturdy, and I just attached my monitor to it. I wanted to do this because I wanted sometimes to be able to move the monitor over into like this position, and I could do kind of shoulder shots, which I did end up doing a little bit, especially when I was following characters and they were walking a lot. Otherwise though, I would usually prefer to just use one of the small rig, just tilting ones, because they're faster to adjust. The monitor I'm using is the Feel World, I think it's called like the F5 Pro. Kind of a cheap monitor. It has all the features. It has good false color, it has good peaking, it has LUTs, it has waveform. That's pretty much what I want out of a monitor. What it doesn't have is brightness. I think it's only 500 nits, and yeah, that kind of ended up being a bit of an issue. Even with this sun hood, it would be a little bit hard to see my shot and see if things are in focus. And I have this top handle. It's a NATO top handle, so I have it mounted to this NATO rail, and this NATO rail came with this follow focus. Yeah, so I just have this and then the 15 mil rod that comes with it. I really like using follow focuses. Pulling from the lens is alright, but I always prefer having an actual wheel to turn. And I guess next we can talk about lenses. This lens here is the PD Artisans, or is it 7 Artisans? I don't know. They're like the same thing, right? Yeah, 7 Artisans, 35 mil. Yeah, this is the lens I was mostly using, mostly because it's my only kind of cine lens, so it has the best manual focus feeling, so I enjoyed it most, and it has kind of the best image quality. It was maybe a little bit tight for some situations, but honestly, I really enjoy the 35 millimeter on a lot of my projects, so I quite enjoyed this lens. And it's super fast, which helps a lot in documentary situations when you have no light. Because there was some shots in like the bus and stuff where it was totally nighttime. There was like a couple lights on in the bus, and this made them kind of usable. On the front here, I have the Nisi True Color 1:5. Yeah, 1:5 stop and VND. I haven't tried any other VNDs, but this one has worked great. I probably could have wanted a bit of a stronger ND. Most of this stuff was shooting in the middle of the day, and I would just run the ND at 5, and then most of the time I'd have my aperture around 5.6 and a 4. At the bottom I have just a regular small rig base plate, small rig 15 mil rods, and I have this little MPF battery plate set up. So there's this tilting piece on the back here, and I tilt it vertically, and then I think there's like a Camvate cheese plate that screws into the bottom down here, and then from there I can mount whatever I want. And I have this MPF battery plate. MPFs are cheaper and they still last a long time, especially with kind of a mirrorless rig like this where it's not super power hungry. I was shooting all day, and I don't think I went through more than 3 batteries in a day. One thing I don't like about this MPF plate, this is how you turn it on. You have to hold the red button here. If you tap it once, you can kind of see 3 dots for your battery levels. Yeah, it just takes way too long to just hold the button just to turn the battery plate on for some reason. So out of the USB-C, I wrap it around to this 90-degree USB-C cable that goes straight into the camera. And then from this little barrel connector back here, I have this kind of coiled cable going up to the monitor. In the best setup, because it doesn't really lock in too good, so I found a lot of the time it would just kind of fall off, and the monitor takes a little bit to turn on as well, so that wasn't ideal. And then I just have the mini HDMI up to the full HDMI to give signal to the monitor. And then for audio, I'm just using the Deity, I don't even know what it's called, but it's probably like their cheapest video mic. It was $50. This actually ran all my audio throughout the entire dock, and I'm honestly pretty impressed by it, by what it was able to capture in those super noisy environments. I just had the camera do auto gain adjustments, and I just had the windsock on the whole time, and it honestly did pretty great. In the interviews, I would run a longer 3.5 mil out of the camera and then plug it into this, and then just generally picking up audio everywhere. This thing did pretty great. As for the lenses I used, I just have really cheap manual primes. So other than that 35, which I stuck to most of the time, my second most used was this 24 mil by 7 Artisans. It's a f1.4. I don't love these just because the focus travel is so short, but this one does have the declicked aperture, which is nice to have. And then whenever they were on the field and I need a little more reach, this is my longest lens. It is my 50 mil by TD Artisan. The mechanics on it, the focus like tension is really nice. And yeah, I would just have step up rings for the ND filter, and this is what I used to capture all whenever they were performing on the field. Going back, I think a zoom lens could have been pretty useful. I do have kind of the kit zoom, the 18 to 55, but it is a variable aperture, and the autofocus on these Fujis isn't really great, nor do I like autofocus in general. And something with the Fuji lenses that I've tried, the manual focus just isn't good. It's laggy and it's slow and it's inconsistent. It's not like the Sony's where it's pretty responsive. Oh yeah, one thing I missed was just how I mounted the shotgun mic, which is just a small rig piece, obviously bolted onto the side, and it has a little cold shoe. That's pretty much it for my rig. I think it served me pretty well. It had a good weight and balance, which I enjoyed. So yeah, that was my documentary rig. If you want to watch the documentary, it is also my channel, and that's it.